Welcome back to Designed for More. I'm Julie, and I'm so excited to be recording episode 4. Thank you so much for being here. And if you're new here, let's take a moment to do a little recap. In the first episode, I share why I even started this podcast and the intention behind Designed for More. In episode 2, we opened a portal together, and that was the portal of your energy type, which, to be clear, is definitely not meant to be a box. In fact, I strongly believe that no modality should ever be a box that overrides your remembering, your intuition, and your knowing. Human design is simply like a mirror to help you bring back that remembering, that connection to your own intuition. And in episode 3, we talked about what might be getting in the way of that portal. Like the conditioning that keeps us from our true alignment, from our true essence, from being in flow with how our energy wants to move naturally through us, because we took the decision to be designed this way. And now, in this next chapter, in episode 4 of the podcast, we're diving deeper into the lived experience of alignment for each energy type. And we're starting with the sacred pulse of the world, the generators and manifesting generators. Or maybe it's for anyone who's ever felt like joy had to wait its turn. Maybe you were taught that pleasure is indulgent, that rest is lazy, or that doing what lights you up is something you have to earn, not something you follow. Who here hasn't said, I'll take this nap or do this thing that feels good after I've done the laundry or after I've done the dishes or after I've sent one more email or tweaked this presentation just a little bit more. But what if I told you that pleasure isn't a distraction? It's a signal. And actually, I'd like to take that a bit further. What if I told you that satisfaction isn't the cherry on the top? It's your strategy. That satisfaction is your birthright and what is going to open up and expand you into this portal of flow, of alignment, of joy, of abundance, of ease. Dear generators and manifesting generators, my intention is that today you walk away with a new lens on productivity, purpose, and power. And if you're not a generator or manifesting generator, I still invite you to listen. Because maybe you're raising one, loving one, or leading one. So let's begin our path to reclaiming the power of pleasure. And let's start with the part of the design that generators and manifesting generators have in common. And that is that these energy types are both what we call sacral beings. Now, what does that mean? First, let's point out where on the chart this lives so you can identify if this is you. If you're looking at your human design blueprint, I invite you to take a look at the rectangle that is the second from the bottom. It's often colored in pink. So if you have this colored in, this automatically means that you are a generator or manifesting generator. If it's white, it means that this energy center is open, and therefore you're either a projector, a manifester, or reflector. And now, what is that pink energy box anyway? Well, this is the sacral center, and generators and manifesting generators are sacral beings. The sacral center is like raw life force energy. It's the energy that animates us and all of this world. And of course, every energy type has life force energy, or you wouldn't be animated and listening to this podcast right now. The distinction is that where we are defined, we have consistent access to this energy. Whereas when it's open, it's more like moving in waves. And so generators and manifesting generators have consistent access to life force energy, this deep, steady current of creative power that comes alive when they're doing what they love. Like me right now as a generator. But here's the key. That energy is only available when you're responding to what genuinely lights you up. So let's visualize this for a moment. I'm a generator, as I said, and I like to visualize that I have a hose that's hooked up to the back of my sacral. Now, in human design, we call this the sacral center. If you prefer the gut space, the womb space, I invite you to choose an expression that works for you. So let's go back to the analogy. We have a hose that's plugged into the back of us into raw life force creation energy, the universe, source power. And the hose that comes through me is being directed into whatever I focus on, whenever I put my attention on, wherever I orient myself. I'm flowing life force energy from source into the world in that direction. And as generators and manifesting generators, we have the tap that's attached to that hose turned all the way up. So the water is flowing at all times at full steam ahead. And that's really the key difference here, because of course, everyone has a hose that's hooked up to life force energy. But for generators and manifesting generators, the water is flowing at all times at full pressure. And the universe is good, and it wants the best for us, and it wants the best for this world, for everyone that lives in it, for everyone who is coexisting here. And so I like to think of it as the universe wants to flow its life force energy through us into the world in ways that serve the highest good. And what a beautiful role and purpose to play here, where we are the generators of good energy. We want the quality of that energy to be good. We want it to be juicy. We want it to be lit up. We want to feel good and satisfying. Not only for us, but what feels good to us feels good to everyone else, because we're generating this energy all of the time. And of course, we're human. So we're not going to be turned on 100% of the time, but every time we can move the needle by 1%, it makes a huge difference in our lives and for the lives of everyone around us. So let's go back to the analogy of the hose, right? We're connected, as is everyone, regardless of what energy type you are. You can follow this analogy. We're hooked up, as Abraham Hicks would say. We're tuned in, tapped in, turned on to life force energy. It's flowing through the generators and manifesting generators at all times at full speed. And through us, through our sacral, our womb, our gut, generating life force energy for the world. That's what we are here to do. We are regenerative beings. And how does that fundamentally work? Well, we're not meant to initiate from the mind. We're here to respond from the body, from this sacral center, the center of satisfaction, the center of creativity, the center of joy, of pleasure, of sexuality. It's not the center of intellect and strategy and mind and figuring things out and making things happen. It's the center of feeling things forward through sound, sensation, inner knowing. And when we do that, life opens up. We enter a flow state. We generate energy, not just for ourselves, but the people around us. It works like this. This deep, steady current of creative power comes alive when you're doing what you love, when you're responding to what genuinely lights you up. That's the signal. It's like an inner GPS. It's the universe saying, Julie, move in this direction. This is where we want you to go. And so the signal is that it's going to feel good. And when it feels good, you're going to get more and more energy to do the thing. It's like sacred hustle. It's sustainable hustle. It is not the hustle of like, I'm going to plow through this thing by using my sheer force and will myself forward, but without the power to do it. It's like having the will, but no power. You know, that's not actually willpower. It's simply will without the power. But when you're doing what your body feels good doing, when you feel inspired to do the thing, when you wake up and feel excited to do the thing, then the universe is going to give you sustainable energy to complete it. The generators are like the doers, the builders of this world. But you are not here to be robots or slaves, just building things out of obligation or shooting yourself out of some sense of needing to prove or perform or please. No. We're here to build and create and do the things that feel good to us, that turn us on, that feel juicy. And when we do that, we could like go, like happy, joyful Energizer bunnies that go all day, feeling aligned, waking up in the morning with energy to go and do and create and build the things and have the experiences that you look forward to, that turn you on, that feel good, that can, be hard, but feel right, feel on point, feel worth it, that feel on purpose, and then go to bed exhausted, but in that good tired. And I know you know the difference between tired because you're drained, your soul is slowly losing its spark, and you're not looking forward to something, you just don't want to do it, and you're feeling frustrated and resentful, versus I used all my energy today and it felt so good. I'm so spent, but in a good way. I gave it all that I had, and I had a lot, That's what it feels like to be aligned as a generator or manifesting generator. And the key there is to follow what feels good. It's not that we get to do the things that feel good after we take care of all the obligations and responsibilities and shoulds. It's that we follow what feels good, and then we get the energy to complete the task. And the next task, and the next task, and the next step opens up. The right next step opens up. Opportunities flow, energy flows, clarity emerges when we follow what genuinely lights us up. The opposite of that is that we do what we've been programmed to do, what we've been conditioned to do. We stay stuck, stale. We stay in situations that don't serve us, but they feel familiar, and familiar feels safe. We choose safety over satisfaction. We choose performing, improving over pleasure. And what happens to that hose that we're hooked up to when we do that? Well, the universe says, no, Julie, do not move in that direction. That's not the direction of your highest good. It's not the direction of your least resistance. And of course, we have free will, so we can choose to go in any direction we damn well please, but the hose is going to get kinked up. Remember I said that it's always flowing and the tap is always turned all the way up? But what can happen is that knots get in there. The energy is still flowing. The amount of and consistency of life force energy is still there. But the hose gets a kink every time we say yes when we really meant no. And then it's going to feel, and if you're a generator or manifesting generator, you've probably felt this quite viscerally in your body, like you want to rip your skin off, Like you have all this energy, but it's like stuck in your body and you don't really know where to put it. And then you kind of have all these things you have to do, and it's like you have the energy in your body, but you don't really want to direct it in those areas. You just don't have the inspiration to go and do it. So you're frustrated. You just don't know where to put it because you're disconnected with your sacral, and that feels so frustrating. And if you're a manifesting generator, it can go even further on the spectrum from frustration to anger. And that frustration and that anger is sacred. It's a signal to you to say, hey, where are you saying yes when you really mean no? Where do you have an opportunity to come back into alignment by saying no to those things that are actually kinking up your access to life force energy? Where are you generating frustration and anger instead of pleasure and satisfaction and joy? Because you're always generating something, generator, manifesting generator. So it can be as simple as coming back to where are we saying yes when we really mean no? Coming back to our sacral, coming back to our gut, coming back to our womb. Choose whatever expression resonates with you. And this can be very challenging for manifesting generators and generators, because we live in a world that feeds us the myth of productivity. And let's name that lie. We're taught that productivity equals worth. We live in a world that praises output over our aliveness, that confuses being busy with being valuable. And that is a lie. For sacral beings, this conditioning is dangerous because the sacral doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to pleasure. Doing what drains you is not productive. It's expensive. It costs you energy, clarity, and joy. Pleasure is not a distraction for anyone. It's your GPS, especially for generators and manifesting generators. When your sacral says yes, it releases a surge of life force. It fuels your fire. And when you ignore it, you dim. Whereas when you follow what lights you up, you generate more energy, not less. You feel alive, magnetic, joyful, and that joy is contagious. So your satisfaction generator and manifesting generator is service. And what feels good for you fuels your work, your relationships, and your impact. Too many sacral beings stay in jobs, relationships, or routines that are fine, but they're not alive. And then they wonder why they feel exhausted, me included. But it's not laziness, it's misalignment. And you don't need to push harder. You need to tune in. So let's talk a little bit more about what I mean by tuning in. Well, first, let's start with the fact that generators and manifesting generators are here to respond. Your strategy is to respond to life. You're not meant to initiate from the mind. You're meant to respond from the body, from the sacral. So that can be like gut type responses that could be sounds that sound quite guttural. And maybe you're like, yeah, I do make gut sounds often. Or maybe you haven't noticed that you do before. And maybe ask people around you to mirror back to you. When I'm saying yes, are you really hearing from me? Or notice where you're pushing something off, or in the reverse, guilting yourself out of something that's a yes for you. It could also be through a sensation. Maybe it feels in your sacral center like you get energy there. It expands. Maybe your body literally leans in. Maybe it feels warm. Or maybe it feels the opposite, like it contracts, like it feels cold, like you feel like you want to protect yourself. And that's definitely a signal of a no for you. And the gut works in black and white. Of course, there's dimensionality here. If you're an emotional being, if you have emotional authority, but putting that aside for the moment, generators and manifesting generators have direct access without an emotional wave kind of coming in to add some complexity to their yeses and nos, which from the gut's perspective are black and white. It's a yes or it's a no. It's not personal. So it doesn't mean that you don't love your best friend that asks you to go and do something that feels like a no, but you say yes out of obligation because you don't want them to feel bad, or because you want to maintain a sense of belonging, or maybe you have a fear of missing out, or whatever it is. The gut is just literally telling you what you have energy for. So it's the universe saying, that's not the path of least resistance for you. That's not the path of your highest joy. That's not the path of your sustainable energy. It's not the path that's going to light you up the most. It's literally just telling you what you're going to have energy for. And it's a yes or a no. And when you say yes, you are bringing magic to yourself into this world. And when you say no, when it was really a yes, you're denying yourself. When you say yes, when it was really a no, you're creating kinks in the hose, and it's going to end up in frustration, in anger. And your enveloping aura is going to bring that felt sense of frustration and possibly anger to everyone around you. And I'm sure some of you have questions like, what does it mean to not initiate from the mind? What does it mean to respond? And maybe that doesn't even feel very empowering. Like, do I have to just sit around and wait to respond to things? Well, we're going to get into much more depth around the strategy of response, and in fact, the strategy for each energy type in a future episode. But the intention of this episode is really to reclaim pleasure as power, to reclaim pleasure as productive, to reclaim our satisfaction as our birthright, and our devotion as generators and manifesting generators to everyone around us. So stay with me, and I welcome you to explore future episodes on the strategy of response, which for me as a generator is actually one of the things that really changed my life in a positive way, that led to probably the most flow and ease in my life. So I really can't wait to talk to you about that. But before then, I want to name something important. It's one thing to know your design, and it's really a totally other thing to trust it, especially when something you've learned about survival or success tells you not to. I know through personal experience how difficult it is to actually come into alignment with our satisfaction. At first, it's so exciting to be told that you're a generator, a manifesting generator, and you're literally here to follow what lights you up, that's in service to the world around you. I mean, how fantastic. I mean, what a gift, right? And the simple things, though, as I've said in previous episodes, are really often the hardest. So for me, it started with, well, what actually satisfies me? Like, where do I actually feel joy? What do I feel joyful about? What would I be doing if I wasn't just doing the things I should be doing, or playing the roles that I feel like I should be playing, or doing the things that I feel keep me and my family safe, or that I get praised for, or that make me feel productive and worthy and that I'm performing? And I didn't even know what actually just brought me pleasure. And that was a really tough pill to swallow. It was actually really hard and really scary. I was so disconnected from my own joy, and also eventually exciting to go on the path of being mindful of, okay, how is my body feeling right now? What am I actually experiencing versus telling myself that I'm supposed to feel joy here because I'm doing this thing with my kids, or because social media tells me that this is supposed to be cool, or because someone else is lit up by it. But really reclaiming my joy by starting to identify where I actually even feel it. And then to actually give that to myself, to make space for that, to receive that. And that really helped. And I hope that it helps you too, to bring grace and openness, that this is an experimentation. That's why we call it the human design experiment. So for me, it started by being okay with experimenting, with, saying, okay, I tried this thing and it was actually a no. It's okay that I don't love that. It's okay to just try and make it fun, and keeping it an experiment, giving yourself the grace to say, okay, I wonder if I would enjoy yoga. I wonder if I would enjoy gardening. I wonder if I would enjoy human design. And you just don't know until you try it. So then checking in with your body as you're experiencing things. Do I feel more alive? Do I feel like I have more energy? What are the sounds I'm making? How does my gut feel? How does my body feel? How did I feel after the fact? And what was the response around me? And if it was a no, or if it was kind of meh, if it's not serving you, if it's not lighting you up, if it's not bringing you more energy, if you're not curious around it or feeling expansiveness and leaning in to go more or do more or talk more, then just don't. So for me in my journey, step one was, this experimentation of what it is that actually brings me satisfaction, and looking at all levels, with my relationships, with my work, with my health, with my spirituality, with my mind, with my body, and more. And that for me was really important to look at holistically, because I think a lot of generators and manifesting generators are conditioned to seek this work-life balance. But that is not it for us. Friends, we are not going for balance. We are going for fullness. But you got to start somewhere, I guess. And so what I really experienced when I left L'Oreal, for example, the first time to seek balance, I moved from New York in the US to New Brunswick, a small province in Canada. I got a job at a very amazing local company that offered this 8 to 4 or 9 to 5 kind of vibe, which was very different from my fuller time job I was working before. And so I had a very balanced schedule. I was doing more of what brought me satisfaction and joy outside of work, but I don't know, it was like a totally different kind of burnout that I experienced. So it was my second burnout. And it was like I lost my spark. It was more like a spiritual burnout. I was balanced, yeah, sure, but I was not full. I had time, but I wasn't energized. That 8 to 4, 9 to 5 is still a big amount of time, and I was just going through the motions, but in a way that drained me like I hadn't experienced before. So then I moved on from there, and I was like, okay, well, I know what satisfies me, or I'm starting to know that more clearly, and I'm spending more time there outside of my job. And now the new part of the initiation was, well, am I worthy of more satisfaction? Am I worthy of this and more pleasure? Am I really worthy of going fully in this next direction of my life, where it's not just balanced, but it's full? Am I safe to be there too? Not only am I worthy, but am I safe to be in my pleasure? Am I safe to be supported in ways that I've never allowed myself to be supported, so that I can really follow my gut where it's telling me to go? where it's really not rational. And that's especially true for manifesting generators. You're pivoting, you're holding multiple things at once. But even for generators, when you're moving step by step and you're not meant to figure out, you're meant to feel forward. So it's impossible, you can't see or know all of the steps or what the end game totally looks like so that you can map it out, your full strategy and your action plan for the next 5 years, 1 year, 6 months. No. It's literally not the way we're designed. Because remember, we're designed to respond one day, one step at a time. So if we think we have it all figured out, we're fooling ourselves. Or we're remaining in this trap of thinking that we're only safe when we're in control. That we're only safe if our minds have it all figured out. If we can touch it, if we can check boxes. And that is going to limit us. That is not the path of least resistance. And it's certainly not the path of highest potential. The path of least resistance is the scary path, you know? It's the path that we can't plan towards, but it is the path where the magic comes in, where we let something bigger than us expand us in ways that we wouldn't do if we only used what we knew from what we experienced already. That is so limiting. Versus having an expansive, all-knowing, all-being force put things in our path to respond to that will be bigger and better and juicier and more abundant and joyful and easeful and purposeful and impactful than our minds could ever create, rather than be in co-creation with the universe as we respond to life. And doing that really asks us to look at any beliefs, any parts of us that are feeling unsafe, to be in our pleasure, that are feeling unsafe or unworthy of that, of being supported, of receiving, of trusting. And then the next step for me was, okay, now that I'm in alignment, now that I've worked with those parts, now that I've transmuted those limiting beliefs, well, you know, I've just created Julie by Design, for example. Am I ready to be seen as a satisfied woman? And whoo! That was an initiation I was not expecting. I've been in women's circles where it's harder for people to share their light than it is their dark. And that's something I never expected. And honestly, I still go through it. Launching YouTube as a for instance. Recording these podcasts is part of that initiation. So yes, reclaiming your pleasure. It's part of rewiring my brain, our brains, to believe, to remember that pleasure is productive and that satisfaction is our strategy with life. It's our strategy of co-creation with life, not the reward that we get after we've done a good job. And this is so important to remember as generators and manifesting generators. And it's one of the most important things that you can support your generators and manifesting generator people through. And I also want to name how difficult it can be. I want to honor that because we need to honor it in ourselves and one another in order to fully reclaim it, in order to fully move through the deconditioning process. The more that we can reclaim it for ourselves, the more we become walking permission slips for others in our energy without even doing anything. But just living a lit up, free life and having other people feel that energy from you, having other people see as you walk through life and feel you walking through life in that way. And to lead our littles, our little people, or our friends, or our adult people too, you know, support them, lead them. Look at your littles and give them things to respond to. Ask them what lights them up. Connect them with their gut. Help them listen for their guttural sounds. Ask them what feels alive or expansive in their little bodies. Man, how many of us were just told what we needed to do all the way while we were young, and were never really asked what we wanted, what was lighting us up. Or maybe when we shared what lit us up, we were shamed or guilted out of that. When you're little, you're just following your gut naturally. You see something you want, you let the people know. They're following their passions. And it's not to say that we, of course, can give them everything. My gosh, there's no way I could follow the bigness of my manifesting generator daughter, for example. She has so much passion and it's so beautiful. I love to be in the presence of it. But we can honor it and recognize that it is beautiful and create space for what we can give and table what we can come back to later and recognize how beautiful her desires are and how big her energy is and how life-giving that is to her non-sacral sister and brother. And thank her for bringing all of this beautiful energy into our home and for lighting us up and for bringing her beautiful energy to the school, to her friends, while also setting boundaries, while also explaining what a priority is for our family's resources, whether that be time or money. And in this way, we can unleash our generators and manifesting generators, no matter the age. Because generators and manifesting generators are so commonly conditioned to people please, to prove and to stay busy in order to feel worthy. Because on the one hand, when we're young, we recognize our power. I know for me, I recognize, even if I couldn't name it as such, but I knew that when I was lit up, I could walk into a room and light that up. And that's because our aura is enveloping. Other people are enveloped into the energy we're creating, and we're always creating. So when our energy is energizing, joyful, and liberated, well, other people are going to feel that too, and they're going to respond to that, and that feels good. But when I was feeling frustrated or when I was on an emotional wave that was more crunchy, I did not feel like I was worthy. I did not feel that that was the energy other people wanted to be around. So I shoved those emotions down. I shoved frustration down. And I did things that other people wanted me to. I people pleased. I faked it. I was the good girl. I was the good student. And because I have so much natural energy, I stayed busy to feel worthy. But there's a big difference between checking off boxes that feel good to you and checking off boxes just to feel productive. I love checking off boxes, so I love it and I still do it. But I want to ensure that those boxes that I'm checking off are those that feel right to me. And feeling right can also be out of devotion. Yeah, there are things I need to do in a day. I'm a mom of 3 young kids. We each own a business, my husband and I. Do I want to do the 10th load of laundry for this week? Hell no. But there are ways that I can make that more pleasurable. I can put essential oils on the wool ball so that when it comes out, it feels aromatic. I can take the dry clothes outside and fold it while I feel the sun on my face. I love things that are juicy, and I'm very sensorial. So maybe I put on a really good playlist of music while I'm doing that. And when I do, I reconnect the devotion to my family, and I reconnect the gratitude that I have the time and the freedom now to do this laundry that used to pile up and cause me so much stress when I was working a fuller-time job. I really don't like cooking. That is not something I look forward to. So I think about, how can I delegate? I use ChatGPT to give me things to respond to make meal planning easier and more joyful. And that's also when I listen to podcasts that inspire me, or leave voice notes for my friends. Or I think about these podcast ideas. So there are ways to connect to our pleasure, even when we're taking care of our responsibilities. This isn't something that's indulgent. It's not something that's selfish. No, we're in devotion to ourselves and the collective, and that's a win-win. So many of our generators and manifesting generators are conditioned to believe that it's one or the other. I meet so many who believe it's either I can make money or I can do what I love. That either I can be a mother or I can have success in my career, but I can't have both. And I'm here to tell you that life is not either or. That is a myth that our society has sold us. It's not true. You can live an and life, and it starts with honoring your yeses and your nos through connection with your gut that is always responding to life. Oof. I really felt that one. Okay, I've been on a roll, so I'm going to trust my open throat and that what was needed to come through did. Because before we can even begin to explore the nuances between generators and manifesting generators, we have to feel what unites them. We have to understand the power of pleasure and the sacral response and the capacity to generate life force energy when they're lit up. Without that, there's kind of no foundation. But now that we've anchored in with these two types and what they share, let's talk about what sets them apart. Because while their mechanics might look similar on the surface, their lived experience can unfold in very different ways. And we'll begin with generators. Dear generators, you are like the sacred flame. You move through life with a deep, steady burn, kind of like firewood, catching a slow, steady flame. It's not a spark that ignites and then disappears. It's more like a burn that deepens over time. A kind of sacred, sustainable energy that builds as you stay with what satisfies you. You're often described as the builders of the world, not because you work the hardest, but because your energy is sustainable when it's aligned. And you thrive in depth. You're here to devote, to go all in on what lights you up. Not because someone told you to, but because your gut gives you a full body yes. And therefore now you have life force energy that you can pour into that. You are not designed to pivot quickly or multitask endlessly. In fact, you thrive when you can focus on one thing at a time. And when you move step by step with intention in order to master something, a craft, a calling, a relationship, a rhythm. And that rhythm is sometimes slower than the world expects, but it's powerful and it's sacred and it's magnetic. When you're pulled in too many directions or when you feel forced to rush, that might make you feel scattered, frustrated, or even depleted. So what can that depth look like? It's like the artist who disappears in their studio for hours, or a doula who stays from the first contraction to the final breath, or a project manager who loves bringing a vision to completion, a chef perfecting a single dish over decades, or maybe a therapist staying with a modality until she becomes a transmission of it, or even a parent showing up with this calm consistency day after day, year after year. But it's not always smooth. Generators often experience what can sometimes be referred to as a sort of plateau, these energetic plateaus, these moments when the fire feels just kind of more dim, when what once felt satisfying now feels kind of flat. And that can be disorienting. You might wonder, did I lose the spark? Did I choose the wrong thing? Am I meant to move on? But the generator plateau is not a mistake. It's more like a sacred pause. It's a chance to integrate or rest while you're waiting for the next spark to arrive. And I know from personal experience that can feel so hard. Our sacral's used to having something to respond to. It's used to having a direction. There's all of this energy that's used to being moved through you, and it can feel very disorienting when you're in this plateau. So if you are, the invitation is to not force your fire. Keep going with this fire analogy. It's not to force it. It's to tend to the coals and to trust what's coming. And it will ask for your full body yes when it does. So give yourself time to rest in that sacred pause. And a journal prompt that might help you if you're there is, where have I mistaken a plateau for a problem? And what might this pause be actually preparing me for? Okay, now we're calling in the manifesting generator energy. And let's start with the fact that by design, all manifesting generators have, in addition to a defined sacral, a defined throat center that's connected through a channel to another center, like the sacral, the heart, or the emotional solar plexus. And that throat to motor connection is what gives you your manifestor flavor, if you will, which is the ability to move quickly and initiate action once you've responded. Manifesting generator, you are fast, you're dynamic, you're non-linear, whereas the generator is like the sacred flame. You move like wildfire, lighting up what's alive and moving on when the heat is gone. Your gift is not depth like the generator, it's range. You're not meant to pick one thing. You're meant to hold many. You thrive when you can follow what's lighting you up in real time, even if it looks chaotic to others, and especially, actually, I would say, if it looks chaotic to others, because your magic, what you're here to show us, is the pivot, your ability to move, to remix, to reshape. It's also a gift of efficiency and innovation. So of course you're not going to follow a linear path because you're here to create new ones, new paths. This might look like running 3 businesses at once and loving it, or being a mom, making dinner, dancing to music, and voice noting a friend while planning a retreat all at once, or the entrepreneur with multiple projects on the go, or starting a project with this wild excitement and then realizing halfway through that the spark is gone and giving yourself permission to just let it go. But here's where it can get tricky. You've likely been told to slow down, to stick with one thing, or to finish what you start. And so maybe you carry a guilt for quitting, for changing, or for being too much. But your sacral says, move, shift, trust the timeline. Your body understands, even when your brain doesn't. Because manifesting generator, you're not flaky or failing. You're designed to follow what lights you up and drop what doesn't. And every time you try to box that in, you risk burning out. When you're boxed in or told to pick one thing or to stick with it or slow down, you can start to doubt yourself or push against your own brilliance. But when you're aligned, manifesting generator, you can literally collapse time. You spark inspiration and you show us what's possible. So we need you to show us that life does not need to be linear, that there are so many ways efficiency can look, and to bring innovation into this world. Manifesting generators, your desires are not random. They're signposts to where you need to go, and where you need to go is going to feel satisfying and expansive for you and for us, because your positive energy will lift and inspire those around you and will bring innovation into this world that we need through joy. Imagine that. Joy, not hustle. And so please, please, please release the pressure to pick a linear path if you've been conditioned to do so, or to choose just one thing, because that is likely already leaving you drained and uninspired and blocking you from the magnetic, full of life person that you're born to be. A journal prompt I offer to you, manifesting generator, is, where am I holding on just to make it make sense? And let's pause here. Can you feel the difference between the sacred flame and the wildfire? The generator's devotion and the manifesting generator's momentum? Both are sacred and powerful, but they're not the same. And when we honor that difference, when we allow each energy to move through us as it's meant to, we reclaim the beauty of our own design. Generator, you're not too slow. And manifesting generator, you're not too fast. You're exactly what this world needs. Lit up and aligned love in motion. So whether you're the sacred flame or the wildfire, whether your power is in devotion or in the pivot, please let this be a reminder. You're not designed to push or to move from pressure. You're designed to flow in pleasure. You're not here to chase productivity or approval or perfection. You were put here to feel lit up, to follow what brings you alive, to build and create and serve, not through sacrifice, but through satisfaction. And I know, believe me, I know. This isn't always easy. I know how loud the world is and how many messages you get to tell you that your pleasure's indulgent, that your joy should come last, or that it's not safe to follow the way your energy would want to. But I also know what happens when you begin to listen to your sacral. Everything changes. You start to say no when you mean no. You start to trust what lights you up, and the people around you feel it because your joy is contagious. So if there's one thing you take from this episode, please let it be this. Your pleasure is not a luxury. It's a strategy. It's essential. It's the fuel, the portal, and the whole point. And if you're not sure whether you're a generator, a manifesting generator, or if you're just starting this journey and you need some guidance, please send me your birth info. I'd love to reflect your design back to you. So until next time, follow your spark, because you are designed for more.